In this video, we're going to be jumping into depth into the flow of what a sales call should look like. Really, the structure of what it should look like. And the reason that this is so important is because I see so many salespeople every single day just kind of asking random questions throughout their sales calls, not really knowing where they're taking their conversation. And if you really want to start making big commissions in sales, every question that you ask has to be with purpose. All right, so in this video, we're not going to be going into the specific questions that we're going to be asking. We're just going to be looking at the flow of the sales call so you really understand where we should be at each point in the sales call. All right, my name is Mike Antiles. I have been a high-ticket closer for the past 2.5 years. Over the course of the past 2.5 years, I have closed over $5 million in sales. And this YouTube channel is really just dedicated to showing you exactly how I've done so that you can do the same thing. Start making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in commissions every single month. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so the flow of the sales call. All right, this is really just going to be a structure of what your sales call should look like. Again, not the specific questions that you should be asking. I have other videos that talk a little bit more about that in more depth, but just like the overview where we should be taking it. All right, so it's going to start off with rapport. All right, starts off with rapport. Rapport, there's two schools of thought on this. There's one school of thought where it's like, hey, let's just talk with the person about nothing for 20 minutes and that's how we build rapport. Ask them how the weather is and all that stuff. Don't do that. All right, that's a waste of time. And at the end of the day, the person is on the call because they want information and they want to change their lives and whatever it is that you're selling. All right, so you don't want to just talk about nothing for 20 minutes. Now, the other thing you don't want to do is just be a complete robot, right? You want to let them know, hey, I'm here. I'm a human being. I'm here to help you, right? Just, make them laugh a little bit. Make them feel comfortable on the call, right? This should really be no more than 2 minutes. For me, it's usually less than 2 minutes. Just make them feel comfortable on the call with you, right? Then, again, we don't want to spend too much time here. Once we've built a little bit of rapport, we've established why they're on the call a little bit, right? Then, okay, now actually what brought you on the call today? Right? So, I always like to frame it, like tell them exactly why I'm on the call. Okay, cool. So it looks like you had booked in a call here because you're looking to get possible outside help with losing weight, or you want to make more income through crypto, or you want to start an online business, whatever it may be, but really guide them right into it. All right. Then once we have really set what the call is going to look like, we've made it very clear what it's going to look like. Then we're going to go ahead and find out their current situation, right? The whole point in this sales process is going to be to create a gap between where they are right now compared to where they want to be. All right, we want to create as big a gap as possible, as big a bridge as possible from where they are right now compared to where their goals are. The first step to doing that is going to be find out their current situation. All right. Pretty straightforward. You want to find out now, like if you're selling them a weight loss program, we don't really care so much, how much money they make, right? So make sure you're asking the right questions here, right? Then once we know their situation, the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to find out their problem. Okay. Again, the goal of the sales call, really the goal of the discovery, is to create a gap between where they are right now and where they want to be. So now that we know their current situation, now we have to find out what their problem is. Once we find out a problem, great, we want to find out another problem. It's going to be much easier to sell a solution to their problem if they have multiple problems. It's much harder to fix multiple problems than it is to fix one problem, right? So if we can find multiple problems, they will pay us more money. They will find more value in what we're selling them at the end of the call. All right? When you find out these problems, something incredibly powerful that you can do, you don't have to do it. This process will work fine if you don't do it, but it'll be incredibly powerful if you also ask them a question. It's called a consequence question. Ask them a question: what happens if you don't fix the problem? Okay, so my problem is I'm 30 pounds overweight. Okay, well, what happens if you just keep on gaining weight for the next 6 months, year, 3 years from now? Like what will happen at that point? Right? Or what happens if you just keep feeling like you're living paycheck to paychecks for the next 1 year, 2 years, 5+ years? Like what would be the day-to-day consequences of that? Right? So, and that will really help them understand. It'll create urgency and help them understand how bad their current situation really is. Again, you don't have to do this at this point in the call. If you don't do it now, we're going to do it later on. But if you do it here, it is going to be very, very powerful. So if you have the rapport with the person and if it suits, then you should definitely do it. All right. Then once we have a problem, then, okay, we know what their problem is. Now we want to find out, what did they do in the past to fix that problem, right? What other solutions have they tried, right? And when you ask this question, you're going to get one of two answers. Either A, they have tried something, right? So they've tried something, and when they've tried something, then we want to know, okay, why was it that whatever they tried, why did it not work? Or maybe why was it not enough? Why did it not completely fix their problem? So that's one possible answer. And the reason over here, once we find out, what it was that they tried, we want to know why it didn't work or why it wasn't enough, because there might be a hidden objection here. And if we can go ahead and handle the objection right now as opposed to end of the call, it's just going to be much, much easier to handle the objection, right? And then the other possible answer that you can get when you ask them what they have done to fix their problem is they haven't done anything. Okay? If they tell you this, that they haven't done anything, you want to know why they haven't done anything. Why they haven't done anything, why it wasn't urgent, and why it now is urgent. Again, you might have another hidden objection here, so it's important to ask why they haven't done anything, because it'll be very helpful to handle these objections right up front, right now, as opposed to end of the call. All right. Then once we find out what they've done in the past, now we want to ask them, okay, well, what do you think that you would need in order to fix this problem? Right? Essentially, what we're asking here is, how should I sell you? In a couple of minutes, I'm going to go ahead and present my solution to you. How should I present it to you? Right? What are going to be the things that are most important for you to see in a program, and how am I going to present it in such a way? We're not going to ask it like that, obviously, right? But we want to know, what are you going to need to fix your situation? Right? The way to be most persuasive is not to sell them how you would want to be sold, it's to sell them how they want to be sold. So over here, we're asking them how they want to be sold. All right? Then once we know how they want to be sold, now we're going to start asking them, what is their life going to look like once their problem is solved? What's their life going to look like once they've lost 30 pounds? Right? What will they be able to do with their kids, with their family? How will they feel? What will their life be like when they're earning another $15,000 a month? What will they be able to do? What vacations will they be able to take? All right? So what is their life going to look like? Help them really build the dream outcome here. Help them build it. Help them paint the picture. When you help them paint the picture, again, what you're doing here is, right, you've already dug upon their problem. You've already probed upon their problem. And what you're doing, right, so you've already taken their current situation. Look at me in the bottom left. You've already taken their current situation and you've lowered it. Now what we're doing here is we're going to take their desired situation and bring it up as high as possible. Right? We're going to bring it up as high as possible, really help them paint a picture of what they're going to want their life to look like. Then once we've built that, we're going to attach a feeling to it. How will that make you feel to achieve that? What will that do for you personally? Right? Because people over here, when you're asking these questions, helping them build a dream outcome, you're going to get more logical responses. People do not buy based off of logic, they buy based off of emotion. Right? So once you attach a feeling to it, it's going to make it feel more real for them, and it's going to make them feel much more inclined to buy. All right, now something that's really important, which I actually did skip, is sometimes, if we go back to when we're trying to find out what their problem is, there will be some calls, and it's not good if this happens, but there will be some calls where you're trying to find out a problem and they're just not giving you anything. They're just like, why is he asking these questions? And again, it shouldn't happen, but sometimes it will happen, and you have to be prepared if it does happen. If it does happen, you don't just want to get on the person's nerves and just keep asking the same questions. They'll just get annoyed and you're not going to make the sale. All right? So sometimes it will happen. When that happens, you can skip over it. Skip over it. You're not going to forget about it, but skip over it for now because you don't want to upset your prospect. That's not going to get you anywhere. All right? That's just counterproductive. And when you skip over it, eventually you'll get to finding out what their dream outcome is going to look like. And usually, once you get here, every single time once you're here, if you have not already found a problem, you will find the problem now. Right? So a lot of times what I have done is I have not been able to find a problem earlier on in the call. Then I get here and I find out, okay, he wants to make an extra $15K a month because he can barely afford his kid's private school. Okay, so now he's telling me he'd be able to afford school much better. Oh, you're not affording it right now? what's going on there. And now you found a problem, right? So keep that in mind. If earlier on you can't find a problem, don't stress it too much. Yes, it is ideal to find a problem right here. Don't stress it too much because you have another chance over here to find the problem. All right, now that we have attached feelings to their dream outcome, then we're going to go ahead and ask them here, what happens if you don't fix the problem? And if you remember, we also asked them that over here. Over here, it's optional. Over here, you have to do it. Over here, you have to do it. Again, what we did here is we created the gap between where they are right now and where they want to be. And then when you ask them, once you've created that gap, when you ask them what happens if you don't fix the problem, you're helping them look, wow, that gap, that bridge is massive. I'm going to pay a lot of money to fix that. All right, so that's the idea behind this question. Then at this point, we're effectively done with the discovery process of your sales call. Now we're going to transition into the pitch, right? Just let them know, hey, sounds like I should be able to help you here, and and then ask them for permission to pitch them essentially. The pitch. All right, now we're getting to the pitch. The pitch, I think it should be anywhere in between 3 and 4 pillars. Keep it pretty quick. All right, no need to start pitching for 30, 40 minutes. A pitch really should be somewhere in between 5 and 10 minutes. 10 minutes really max. It really should be less than that. But again, you're going to pitch them in a very compelling way and a charismatic way. I've always found using short stories to be helpful, to be more persuasive, to be more charismatic. It shouldn't be too long, right? And something important to remember here is earlier on, when you ask them what they would need to fix their problem, they will tell you exactly how to personalize the pitch. All right, so remember, even write down the answers to the question, to that previous question when you're pitching them, because it's going to help you on how to really personalize that. All right, then once you have pitched the prospect, the next thing that you want to do, right, a lot of people are going to want to sprint right from the pitch to dropping the price and closing the deal. And that would be really nice if it worked like that. But there's a few things we have to do beforehand. All right, these 3 things that we're going to do beforehand, I'm going to explain why they are in the order that they are. But the whole idea behind these 3 things, asking them what questions they have, getting them to commit, doing some kind of temp check, seeing how committed they are, and explain the next steps. The point of these 3 things, they're all to, number 1, handle the objections before telling them what the price is, because it's going to be much easier to handle an objection before they know the price, and also to minimize the time between the time you drop the price to the time that they pay, right? That you actually close the deal. All right. Now, why do we do it in this order? So we pitch, then we want to know what questions they have. What do they wish that I had covered that I didn't cover? Right? What are your objections? All right. If you did a good job, there really maybe should be 1 question. Sometimes you'll get 3 or 4 questions, and if it happens, great. That's a good thing. It means they're engaged. It means they want to know more information. So it's not a bad thing to get questions here. Then once you have answered all their questions, okay, now they know everything that they need to know. They know everything that they wanted to know before getting on the call. Now we want to see how much they're bought in, right? How much are they really bought in? And we really want to get certainty here, right? Based off what we've gone over, do you feel like this is what you were looking for? Yes. Why? Right? And once we see that they really are bought in, then we'll be like, okay, so you feel good about the process. You have no questions. And then something I like to do here is ask them, what's next? Where do you want to go from here? And then always what they'll say to you is, how do I get started? Once they say, how do I get started? You're going to tell them what the next steps are. And again, the reason we want to tell them what the next steps are before we tell them what the price is because we want them to, once you tell them the price, they will be nervous. Their mind is going to be racing a little bit. They're going to be thinking very quickly. And we want them to have as much certainty as possible as to what happens next before they know the price. It will give them a lot of peace of mind. All right, so we tell them what the next steps are. Right, the next steps from here is you'd go ahead and you'd process the investment here with me, either on debit or credit card. Then from there, we'd get you set up with your accountability coach, get you set up with the modules, and then from there, you'd get started, right, whatever it may be. Make that a little bit more compelling depending on what you're selling. Make it be like, okay, and then you're going to get started, and eventually, right, we'll put you on track to making that extra $7K a month, whatever their goal is. Right, then we're going to drop the price. Once you drop the price, I I always tell people, expect to get objections. Expect it. Most times you will at least get a little bit of a question, and you don't want that to let you throw you off. Expect to get the objections, and when you expect it, it's going to help you deal with the objections much more calm. Once in a while you won't get an objection, and great, you close the deal, right? But essentially you handle all the objections, and then you go ahead and close the deal, and that's it. So this is the flow of the sales call. This is exactly what it should look like. Again, there will be some variations to this because every prospect is different, but it's important. The reason I made this video is it's because it's important to understand why we're doing each of these things. Why we find out their problem at this point in the call. Why do we find out their goals in this part of the call? Why are we asking them how they want to be pitched at this part of the call? It's super important to understand it because when you understand it perfectly and the prospect throws you some curveballs, you will know how to deal with it perfectly and you will still close the deal. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I left a link in the description of the video if you want to go ahead and book a call with me, see what it's like to work with me one-on-one. And when you work with me one-on-one, you'll get much more in-depth coaching from me. We'll do call reviews, right, to really help you get to the point where you're making the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month consistently. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and hit the little bell below this video, and you'll be notified every time I release a new one. I will see you on the next one.